gonna bug me.
What's gonna bug you?
Like my arm. I put nothing.
No, what?
My arm is like way over here. I usually do it over here.
Oh, just like 3 inches to your left.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But
Wait.
it's 3 inches to my right. But yes, it needs to be 3. Yes.
No, yeah, it'd be 3 inches to your left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's gonna bug me.
Space.
The final frontier.
Star Trek? Star Wars.
Star Trek. Right? Space, the final frontier?
That wasn't that's not what I meant. We're in a wow. You want to just use that? Or you
Yeah,
wanna try
sure.
again? All right.
Cool with that. Let's get into this shit show of a movie.
Well, yeah. All right.
This is Tommy.
There we go. This is Jacob.
I was cleaning my mustache.
Whatever.
This is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is
Tommy and Jacob's mixtape. Welcome to Satan's Game, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, what? We're talking about Pokemon? Like, what's going on?
No, well, dude, Pokemon also was Satan's game.
Yeah,
Harry
yeah.
Potter was Satan's thing for a minute there, man, dude. But the fear of this,
Knights in Satan's service.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fear of this in the 80s. You know, Stranger Things season 4 covers that. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's.
And also, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also, you know, the Mazes and Monsters movie starring Tom Hanks about a kid who goes too far deep into the D&D world where he starts to think it's actually his reality.
Why did we do that movie? That immediately sounds more interesting.
It actually has a lot of it's how do I describe it? It's just like the way that it leans into like fantasy stuff and role playing like that as detrimental to a child's health.
Yeah, it still sounds more interesting than this. Like, there's themes to talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
This definitely doesn't.
No, this is like,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 130.
oh, yeah,
Even 130.
Yeah, welcome to 130.
And today we are reviewing.
And we're starting at. Okay, never mind. I thought it was 130.
No,
I know.
No, I mean actually, we always got a good time. Anyway, and yeah, so if the title of the episode didn't get you, we are doing the movie Dungeons and Dragons from the year 2000. And also, with this being released this Friday, this is the exact same release date as the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves. Among Thieves.
Which I'm actually really excited for.
It looks fun. It
looks
actually,
fun.
well, and I think the reason why it looks like it's going to be a lot better than whatever the fuck this hodgepodge pile of what we just watched was, is because it actually had a budget and it was actually produced as a Hollywood big budget, just popcorn feature.
This also has a pretty big budget.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It was like 30 million, 45 million.
Yeah.
For a movie of like the caliber that they wanted, like I was reading, they wanted 100 million originally.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like 30 million is you can do a lot with 30 million.
Yeah, they just didn't do didn't do it well. Yeah.
Like I'm like, no, it had a budget. Like, but also I think with the new one too, it looks like it's leaning into more of the comedy.
Yes.
Which it definitely
It feels like it's just like people are like getting the aesthetic of what the Marvel movies are and like let's make Dungeons and Dragons like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be, you know.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a popcorn feature.
Yeah.
Like I'm not expecting to be like mind blown away of like this amazing Dungeons and Dragons. Also, Dungeons and Dragons is just supposed to be fun. You know?
Yeah, it kind of like the new one feels like a stoner. Like you want to smoke a joint and go see Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah, sure.
And they go play D&D afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Like, you know, it sounds like a fun afternoon. You know?
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah. So we're doing and also like this is kind of the beginning of our block like of properties getting turned into movies and franchises and whatnot. Maybe I thought we might be talking about Last of Us comparing stuff, but I don't know how much we actually will. We'll see.
I'm kind of curious though. So we're gonna do this one, and then we have the next one.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to talk to you about maybe continuing that.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. We'll talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's just get into for Dungeons and Dragons. Well, really quick, I'm curious, what is your knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons?
Pretty much that conversation we had at dinner.
Oh, with Taylor?
With Taylor. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to be like pretty much the conversation we just had right now.
No.
Which I know you've heard
I'm nerd enough to know.
Yeah, and I have played quite a bit in my life. I played a lot in high school. I played a lot in my early 20s with my roommates. To where we would literally be playing like once or twice a week. Like someone would have a new campaign for us to play in, and I was reminiscing on that, like the different characters I played, like a chaotic evil character that I played where I set a bar on fire and then weaned people out and shot them down with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, you scared my partner with that story.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. To another character where it was just complete idiot, where I would like I pretty much quoted like every 90s or not 90s 80s like hero character. I was a fighter, so like I would draw my sword and be like, I am the power. Yeah, that peaked.
Yeah, it did.
To everyone like I'd be like, thunder Thundercats. Oh, but my DM was just like, Jake, you're a level 1 fighter. I'm like, and it's intimidating.
Like with this though, could I like basically be like a barbarian that's like Duke Nukem?
Yeah, we could. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I just come in like kicking ass and chewing bubble gum.
Yeah. Whatever personality you create for the character is what you create for the character.
That's so fun
because it's all in your imagination. Imagination in a world. Wait, no, never mind. So,
what
like,
were you singing?
In a something of imagination.
Oh, Willy Wonka. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I was like, what is that? Okay,
in a world of complete
pure imagination.
I don't remember the rest of it. That's all I was remembering.
Yeah.
All right, we are getting really distracted. So, Dungeons and Dragons, yeah, I played quite a bit of it. I am very familiar with how the characters, not so much like a lot of the worlds, because there's a lot of like different like worlds and campaign settings and campaign worlds that you can like play in, like ones that are a little more darker and like horror based ish, to one the movie for this Dungeons and Dragons. This is based out of loosely based out of the very like common world that it has like all of the stuff of Dungeons and Dragons. I think it's called like Mirtar or something.
Well, like I'm sure there's like a whole like where like a necromancer is making the undead come to life.
Yeah,
kind of shit.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's what you mean, right?
Yeah. It's like there's just there's the Forgotten Realms like campaign setting, which is a lot more bleak, and that campaign setting is focused a lot on dark elves and like their society and whatnot. But really quick, I just also like before we get into this, like just talk about the creators, because they kind of have an uncredited writing credit on this.
Like the based on characters by.
Yeah. Well, it's not even character because it's based on the game, tabletop game, created by E. Gary Gygax, which sounds like there's a part of me like just his last name Gygax. I'm like, was that a D&D character you created and you just wanted to change that to your last name? It sounds like it,
that
right?
way, yeah, like it does. When I was reading about him too.
E. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, they started TSR back in the 70s. And
Tactical Studies Rules.
Is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't. Is that? Did you write that down? Like,
yeah, I might have written it. I
was like, did it?
Tactical Study Rules. Sort of, but yes. The first D&D.
Yes, Tactical Studies Rules. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Started in 1974.
Yeah, 1974. And it's had many, many different iterations between like first edition, advanced first edition, second edition, advanced second edition, third edition, 3.5, fourth edition, and fifth edition, with like little other things inside of there. I played the most of probably like third edition, which is when it became popularized again in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Late 90s, early 2000s. And then there's also like a knockoff one that is like the most popular in comparison is Pathfinder.
Oh.
Yeah. So
like the movie?
I don't think there's.
Is that not a
no,
correlation?
I don't
Okay.
think there really is. I don't think there is.
Okay.
Pretty much what ended up happening is Wizards of the Coast purchased, which is actually kind of like the history of this movie, when Wizards of the Coast finally purchased TSR and absorbed all their properties. This movie was able to like move forward quicker because TSR was holding back a lot of the with a lot of the stuff,
the rights and what's funny about this whole episode is that I've actually been most excited about this conversation.
Talking about the history of this movie,
you talking to me about it, because I never dabbled, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's always very fun to like hear about be like me talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. I'd be like, all right, so here we go. You know what I mean? It's like fun to see you excited, and also like because I've always been curious about D&D, but I never had that group of friends that wanted to do it. You know?
Also, I mean, when it comes to like knowing you, and we've talked about this a couple of times, is like in the actual like role play of it all, I don't know how interested you personally would stay, because I know your patience, your
ADD.
Yeah, your attention span when things aren't happening to you or around your character, you would very much just kind of like, why am I sitting here? Like, what is happening? But if the storytelling
you really politely said I'm so self-involved, I could.
I didn't mean it that way, but I mean, fuck you. You are that way.
I am.
But I think like unless like the story, like if the DM or GM was able to tell a story captivating enough to like, you might be interested in like, wow, why is that happening to that person? And then you know excited for their dice rolls and stuff like that, because like so much of it is just like in your imagination. It's like like I'd be like, so you want to go and you're sneaking across the room, and then I'd be like, okay, roll a d20, add your stealth check, and then you would give me a number. Let's say you rolled a 14, your stealth check was 2, then it'd be like 16. I'd be like, okay, so you have successfully walked across this room stealthily, and then I would give you a description of how that would look for your character. Or I'd be like, what is your character wearing? Or like give you the opportunity to be like, how are you trying to do this?
I think you're right. I don't have the attention for that.
Yeah.
What?
I can show you an example, like on Dimensions 20. I can show you an example of like how gameplay goes, like 6 people with Brendan Lee Mulligan, that guy that's on College Humor Dropout that I really like. He's one of the best dungeon masters I've ever like. I enjoy watching him do it.
Okay.
He's so good at it. So, but yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, created back in the 1970s. It's a really
little history lesson.
Yeah, it's got a really big lore to it. It is very much inspired by a lot of fantasy from like the 1970s and forward or past. I mean, Gary Gygax denied a lot through the 80s and 90s that he took a lot of inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien. He's like no, like there was, because he wanted to deny it because like literally like there was I think it was in the 80s, they had to change the name of hobbits in Dungeons and Dragons to halflings, because it was they were like, no, you can't use. There was a couple of names like Hobbit, Treant, and something else.
But in Lord of the Rings, they call them halflings.
Yeah, but they didn't. But they were Hobbit. Like they didn't want the word Hobbit used anymore. The Tolkien,
they're fine with halfling. They weren't fine with Hobbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, they were like, because they were called hobbits in first edition Dungeons and Dragons. It was just too close. They're like, you're taking
too many properties.
Yeah, you're taking too much liberty with this world that Tolkien created and creating your own thing and making profit off of it.
Okay.
And then eventually Gygax was like, yeah, of course it fucking, it did inspire me, but there was like there was so many other inspirations as well. It wasn't just Tolkien. There was this world of what fantasy existed, and everybody used elves, everybody used this. Yeah. And I just wanted to take that and put it into a thing for people to play and have fun with.
Yeah, but it's like to deny it at all whatsoever is stupid, because it's Tolkien. Like,
yeah. Well, but Tolkien wasn't as big of a name really through the like 70s and 80s. You know, it's like.
No, what I mean is just like, it's like Tolkien is like a grandfather of fantasy writing. You know, so it's like, and to be like, for someone to be like, you took that from Tolkien, you'd be like, yeah, obviously I did.
It's like,
of course I did. Like, it's Tolkien.
He's like, yeah, and I also took a lot from who did what's his name? H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, and this stuff, and they're
obviously I did, like, because you know there's a lot of like base building.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like, well, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, to be as ballsy as to take the word Hobbit, that's kind of funny to me, but
yeah, it's like, and they're called Entreants, had to get changed to Ents, and there was one other one that I remember seeing in Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it's kind of like where we get like the idea of I feel like fantasy. When someone says a fantasy world, you think something kind of like what Tolkien's created, what Dungeons and Dragons has, and whatnot. Mm-hmm. You know, because even though science fiction is technically fantastical and fantasy in its own sense, but science fiction is more based on like futuristic stuff. I feel.
Yeah.
Because it gets science, even though magic can be science.
According to Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, magic is just science we don't understand.
Right. Hey.
It's like, that's actually one of my favorite quotes from the Marvel world.
All right, so we kind of skipped over just really well, we jumped right into something else. What's your synopsis for this movie?
Adventurers must find a red dragon controlling staff to avoid full-out war and destruction of the Empire.
Yeah. The Empire. I was thinking of Star Wars a lot there.
One of the reviews actually brings that up.
Yeah. There is definitely like a weird thing of like fan service just for nerds in this movie, I feel like, at moments.
I don't really know who this movie's for.
Yeah, that's another thing as well.
I don't really...
Came out December 8th, 2000. How many movies did you have in 2000?
51. I
had 50.
Oh.
We're neck and neck.
Oh, my God. Who's going to win the award this year?
I don't fucking know. Probably you. I mean, unless we do more 80s movies.
That's true.
80s, early 90s. All right, so let's get into the creators of this movie. Because this is fucking weird as well.
This is going to be real quick, I think.
So this movie was directed by Courtney Solomon. And this is kind of like... It seems like Courtney Solomon pretty much wrote the treatment for it. All the research I was reading was like the two writers was just kind of like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But Courtney Solomon, this like launched his producing career.
Yeah, Courtney Solomon became more of a producer than anything
and
else.
He only ever wanted to be a producer. He never really wanted to be a director. He didn't even want to direct this. Like James Cameron was about to direct this.
I didn't read that.
Yeah. Like
this is a very different movie.
A very different movie. So the problem is like it was Courtney Solomon, like him, been trying to get this movie made since like the early 90s. And he had a treatment written, and like TSR was on board with like trying to get something done, but they had like restrictions. Like they wanted to just be a direct to home video thing.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't.
It feels like that, anyways.
Yeah, like there was just like a lot of like complications with TSR and the production and the production company that Courtney Solomon with someone that he met in Japan created together called Sweet Pea Productions.
Okay.
Which is where just how Courtney Solomon was able to get this movie produced and then started producing other stuff after this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And finally, when Wizards of the Coast bought the properties for everything, there was like talk that like, okay, so maybe we can turn this story into just like a short, like, animated mini-series. Or not animated a mini-series.
Okay.
Have it be a mini-series because they're like, there's a lot of stuff and like maybe a mini-series would be better. Like that we could, get on Sci-Fi or TNT or USA at the time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they're like, cool. Then they were told as TSR was selling to Wizards, like TSR, like people told them, Courtney Solomon and his like partner, that Wizards would be on board for that. And Wizards were like, no, we want our movie.
Oh.
So then their budget was started at $5 million.
See, that's a low budget.
Yeah. I think just like how fantastical, like how big this movie is, 30 million, 45 million is still really, really small because of just like, this was this is an ambitious movie.
Yeah.
When you look at how bad, like all that bad CGI fucking like transition scenes, like if they had like another 50 million to like put into that, those could have looked so cool instead of like a bad CD-ROM video game from 1992.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
So yeah, Courtney Solomon eventually like
I missed all of this drama about it.
Mm-hmm. This is all off Wikipedia. Like I read the entire Wikipedia article on this thing.
I was overwhelmed about how long it was. I was like, what?
You see, when I see that, I'm like, we got some meat in here. I want to get into it.
All right. Well,
okay.
Continue.
Eventually, they were like, they started doing stuff, and Courtney Solomon, he, like I said, he didn't want to direct it. He looks back at it, you know, honestly, he's like, yeah, no, it wasn't good, but it was my first time directing, my first time really producing anything. It's like, for the fact that this is my first time doing this, and I got a movie out of it, and it went like, and it like, it was a Hollywood movie. Like, he's like, yeah, fucking good for me, man.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
he's like, and I learned a lot.
I like that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then looking at the writers, Topper Lilien and Carroll Cartwright, like, they just had random like TV show stuff here and there. It's like, are these real people?
Yeah, like, I mean, I only...
Like, even, like, when I go into, like, when on Wikipedia, they don't even have Wikipedia Wikipedia links.
Well, for Cartwright, I just wrote down Miss Harris Goes to Paris just because I liked how it rhymed.
So, yeah, it's just, like, it's these two people kind of, like, wrote like, a screenplay. And then, like, as they were filming it, I guess, like, things just kind of changed here and there. Like, yeah.
Kind of the George Lucas effect.
Yeah. Yeah. But this movie strangely has a recognizable-ish cast.
It's really a hodgepodge. There's
Yeah.
a lot of mixing of like new up-and-comers at the time, and then like Jeremy Irons. You're like, what are you doing here?
It feels like he was guilted into it from the story.
It feels like it feels like a Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Yeah,
where it's like, who twisted your arm into doing this? Because even then, okay. Also, Jeremy Irons is someone that's really famous to me, and I don't really know why. Because I was looking at his,
right. No, I was thinking the same thing.
I actually haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
Of yours, but like he's also it's fucking Jeremy Irons, and he's kind of terrible in this.
I think a lot of that's just bad scripting.
Yeah, but it's just, but also.
But then, I mean, I was looking at some like just casual reviews, and people like Jeremy Irons' charismatic nature carries his film. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What movie did you watch?
Yeah.
like he's just kind of the entire movie. Like half the time I couldn't understand what he was saying.
It's like, so we got Jeremy Irons, voice of Scar. He is Alfred in the new. It was Alfred, I guess.
Oh yeah, he was Alfred
in with Ben Affleck's Batfleck. He was Alfred.
I think, isn't he a musketeer in the Iron Mask?
Yes, the Man with the Iron Mask. He's in the Man with the Iron Mask, and I can't
remember which one he is, but
I don't really remember that. I don't think I've actually seen that movie. If I did, I was way too. I just don't remember watching it as a kid.
It's not good, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
yeah.
Jeremy Irons is one of our biggest names. Our lead in this is Justin Whalin, who you would recognize as Andy in Child's Play 3, maybe.
Susie Q.
Yeah, Susie Q. If the original Disney movie with Amy Jo Johnson. Yeah. But he's also like one of Clark Kent's like photographer friends in the New Adventures of Superman, Lois and Clark.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's like a Jimmy kind of character.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Like, I forgot that show existed.
That's funny because it weirdly pops in my mind every now and then.
I kind of forget, just like, this is a quick side tangent. I forget how many like Superman properties existed.
Yeah.
You know, like I forget. I never watched Smallville. Forget that Smallville was a thing.
I loved Smallville.
Season. I don't think I've ever seen an actual episode of Lewis and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman.
I just know that it is a
thing. Yeah. They casted Justin Whalin because Courtney Solomon, he didn't want like a huge like movie star as the lead. He wanted someone that looked like they could be a movie star. I think he wanted to try to jumpstart somebody's career.
Okay, I'm just gonna be totally honest. He's terrible in this movie. His smile hurts my face
because it looks
so like
forced.
Yeah, like it really hurts my face.
And then I think I would say next, like Marlon Wayans is the next kind of like at the time big name.
Yeah, like Scary Movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Wayans.
He's recording Requiem for a Dream at the same time that he's filming this.
Yeah,
actually.
And it's like, I mean, they're
the Wayans brothers. Yeah,
they're
legend.
I don't know, legendary isn't the word. I mean, they're iconic.
They're iconic, and then he's already done. Well, Scary Movie comes out after this, but oh god damn it, what's that long ass name one? I can't remember the name of it.
White Chicks.
That movie. I've
never sat through it. I think Terry Crews would. Oh, isn't he like super into one of them?
Yeah, Terry Crews is the best part of that entire movie.
Making my way downtown. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've seen parts of it. Yeah, okay.
And then our next lead would be Zoe McLellan, who was in CSI. She really just had like a TV show career post this.
Mm-hmm.
She was literally just kind of eye candy in this movie. I feel like her character didn't do much, except
I mean, she was the mage.
Yeah,
So you had Ridley, the adventurer.
Mm-hmm.
You had the thief. You had the mage.
Snails, the mage, and then Thora Birch is in this,
the Empress.
Yeah. So Thora Birch, Hocus Pocus, his little girl, Ghost World. She did this actually because she wanted to take a step away from those, because she had done American Beauty and Ghost World and whatnot. She's like, okay, I need to step away from these weird, outlandish, girls type character and show that I can do something else.
She gave me hella vibes of a Neverending Story.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose. I think that was on purpose.
Okay,
yeah.
I was like,
I think that was supposed to be an homage type thing.
Okay,
yeah,
to the fantasy, an Easter egg. I guess you could call it.
And then we have just quick little names of the guy that's the general, Bruce Payne, who's done a lot of theater and other stuff. Lee Arenberg is actually a cool shout out, who plays the dwarf, because he's one of the slapstick pirates.
Yeah,
he's
Pirates the comic relief.
Hello, puppet.
Yeah. It took me a minute. I was sitting there and I was like, because I watched it and then did notes, you know. So I was sitting there and I was like,
man, that guy looks really familiar. Yeah.
And then he said something and it sounded like, hello, puppet. And I was like, holy shit! Ouch! Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
that pulled my earlobe.
That was fucking. You got excited there.
I got real excited. Okay, wait. I got it. I'm tangled up. Hold on a second.
How'd you get tangled up?
I don't know. I'm not moving. Okay.
Yeah. And also, just some of the one-liners they gave him, that's a bad way to do business. Just
or I'm a dwarf that shows their feelings.
Yeah.
He was goofy.
No, you want a 250-pound dwarf woman with a beard that you can hold on to.
That was so vulgar. That was suddenly you're shockingly vulgar for this movie. You're because then he's you're got it. Calm down.
And then I'm just really quick credit out Kristen Wilson, who plays one of the elf fighter.
About that character. I have a comment.
Oh?
Yes. I loved her armor.
Dude, it was so bad.
It was so bad. It was amazing.
It looked like
it was incredible. I was obsessed with it because I was like, it's like you're making her nude without actually making her nude, to the point where the breastplate actually had a little hint of areola.
Yeah.
And then the 6-pack sex lines going to... I was obsessed with it. I was like, that is terrible and amazing all at the same time, because
this is in an age when female armor wasn't really taken very seriously.
Dude,
it was made to
brutal. I was obsessed with it.
Did it kind of make you think, obviously it's not to that same degree, but where it'd be in the video games where the men's armor is all weird and designed and crazy, and then and the women's armor is just a bikini,
sleek and form fitting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's I was fine. I was fine with the mid, the stomach or whatever, but it was when you caught certain angles and you kind of saw the areola nipple thing, I couldn't stop laughing because it was pretty great.
Yeah,
it was cool.
All right,
but I'm sorry, she's known Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah.
I just saw her in Walking Tall, the Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And I guess a quick shout out to Robert O'Brien, who played Riff Raff in Rocky Horror Picture. Yeah.
Richard.
Oh, yeah, Richard O'Brien. And then I forgot, I didn't write it down, but the guy that played the fourth Doctor plays like that elf, the healing, the elf elder that heals Ridley. Fourth Doctor from Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
That's right. I'm like, oh, well, you've never watched Doctor Who, so when I reference the Doctor, you're like, Doctor? Who's the Doctor?
Who? Richard O'Brien to Dark City.
Yep.
For a shout out to people that listen to this. Yep. Another movie you reviewed.
So what'd you get for reviews? I forgot to say what the review scores that I got were really quick. IMDb is 3.6. Tomato meter reading is 10. Audience score is 20.
All right. Let me also just bring this up for. So Metacritic 0 positive, 6 mixed, and 19 negative. So I got 2 mixed and then 1 negative, just to kind of like. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Jack Matthews at Daily News gave it 50 out of 100. The special effects work fine for minor acts of magic, but the climactic aerial dragon fight is lame, and most of the performances are at the level of high school plays. Which, let's go back to that one because I have a thought about this movie.
Okay.
And then Charles Savage, who also gave it 50 out of 100 at the Miami Herald. A splashy, silly movie that inexplicably stars Jeremy Irons, but will delight 10-year-old boys across the realm. Regrettably, the hordes of pre-adolescent boys it would have delighted were at... Oh, Jesus Christ, I totally fucked that up. A splashy, silly movie that inexplicably stars Jeremy Irons, but will delight 10-year-old boys across the realm. Regrettably, the hordes of pre-adolescent boys it would have delighted, most were that age 20 years ago. So the people it's for are now 30.
I see.
So when they were 10, they would have loved it, but they're now 30.
Yeah.
That was really hard to read. Anyways.
Do you practice reading these out loud before?
No, I need to start doing that.
There you go.
Yeah. like I can, it's fine in my head, you know?
Using words and articulating stuff is different.
Yes, I know. Got it. Okay. I'll practice. Lisa Alspector, 10 out of 100 at Reader. The plot somehow manages to be both hackneyed and convoluted.
Yeah.
Which that one, I was like, yeah, like, this is the most generic thing possible.
I think some of my favorite moments are like one specifically at the beginning when he has the staff that he's trying to create to control the dragon, and then he's controlling the dragon, and he's like, oh, and then his partner's like, the guard is just like, you can control dragons. It's like, what? Yeah, what do you think's happening right now, you fucking idiot?
I like also anytime anyone's holding a staff, it looks like they're about to blow it. It's like, did you notice that?
I didn't fully recognize that sexual nature. No,
it's like when he grabs the red one. He's
he can't. It's because the magical power is surging through his body.
Yeah, I know, but it's like terrible. All right, let's do it. Let's get into it,
man. Yeah, this is like. It's interesting. Is like. I feel like there was an idea of a really, I mean, it's a very simple story, and when it really comes down to it, it's the good versus evil, and like the Empress is trying to create a world of equality, and the higher up people don't want that. It's very political. It's oddly so political.
Yeah, well, actually.
I mean, most fantasy stuff is generally, a reflection of the real world we're in. Well, but like the way that it just unfolds, and then it's like, and then this scrappy young thief becomes the hero of the world. Ha! It's like. Well,
it's like funny too. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to I've been in my head kind of mulling over a fantasy story, and I was thinking like how would you do a mage controlled populace where mages are, because it's kind of little like it's throughout, like even like The Witcher too, like the mages are like they see themselves as like
the Wheel of Time series.
They see themselves
the
as better
Death Cycle.
So I was just like kind of mulling over like what would be an interesting way to approach that. And then I watched this and I was like, not this way. Nope. Oh, all right, check that off the list. That's not going to be a thing. But yeah, it's okay.
This is one. It's sorry.
Pause.
You do yours. You go.
Did you enjoy it? That's what we have to start at that and then kind of break down.
Oddly enough, yes,
I loved it.
Yeah, it's like I want to say I put it on again while I was doing notes because like yeah, this is actually weirdly like background good background.
That's what I did too. I was like it's weirdly, you know, we always talk about like it's ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. This is
so behind its time.
Yeah, it's so behind. Like if this was a movie that was made in 1982,
yeah,
you'd be like, cool.
Yeah,
you know,
Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, Clash of the Willow. You know, like it would have. It's weirdly, really, it's so easy to digest if you really don't.
It is so generic.
It's so generic.
It is extremely bland.
And it's a Wonder Bread bologna sandwich
that wants to be something more.
Yeah, like it's the underdog of movies. It is so. I love that. It's bland. It's just so easy to digest. I watched it like 3 times.
I'm actually really like that you enjoyed it this much because of how much you like. Hey, you feel that you were like, I don't fucking want to watch this movie
From
now.
The trailer, yeah.
I mean, it's got some of it. It's like what's interesting is like the CGI. It's like it's not good, but it does its job perfectly well. Yeah. You know?
I mean, the dragons are terrible.
Oh my God, the dragons are some of the worst. Like, it's interesting is like, that's like, if you look at like classic artwork in Dungeons and Dragons, I wish I should have looked up some of the, like their most popular like artists. Mm-hmm. That is very similar to what the dragons look like that are drawn for the Dungeons and Dragons world.
Okay.
But what they ended up doing was making these like drawn like illustrated magical beasts. They made them look cartoonish. Mm-hmm. They made them lesser is a better way to put it. It was really interesting. I was like, yeah, it's like in a world in the Dungeons and Dragons like illustrations, this is kind of what a dragon should look like.
Well, Roger Ebert gave it 38 out of 100. Dungeons and Dragons looks like they threw away the game and photographed the box it came in.
Yeah, dude.
That's kind of fitting to what you're saying.
Yeah. It was strange. Just like, yeah, that's a night. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but no.
What blows my mind, actually, like watching this, I was
surprised that there was more dragons after that first one, honestly.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? Let's do it.
Let's just have the dragon war.
Let's do 100 of them. And you're like,
what the fuck?
And they're all fucking terrible.
Oh wow. All right.
No, but like I think that's like a thing about this movie too. So what? This came out in 2000.
Yeah.
23 years ago. How old am I? It was like what, 8 when this movie came out?
Dude. 7 or 8.
So yeah, 7 or 8 around there. I would have loved this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have. Like, and that's the thing is like, you know, we always talk about like, is it worth watching, whatever. If you got a kid that's into fantasy and you need him to shut the fuck up for 2 hours, put this shit on.
Also, yeah, this movie's an hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah,
like, what
it's way too long.
I like paused it at some point and it was at like 40 minutes. I'm like, how am I not halfway through this movie yet?
It was like Lord of the Rings. Like 3 times I was like, oh, it's got to be over soon. And then I paused it and I'm like, 30 minutes?
Like, what's going to
happen? What else are we going to do? No, I had the same thing. But it's like, no, like seriously, if you like your kid like fantasy, throw this in front of them and call it a fucking day. Because it's like, because even then, like, there's actually like a lot of things I loved. Like, I really did like what was his name? Bill Payne? Oh, Bruce Payne.
Bruce Payne.
I loved Bruce Payne.
What was his character's name? Doramir or something? That's not right.
Damodor.
I did a weird like mixture of Boromir and Damodor there.
It's Damodor. And it's like, he's really our main villain because only the fact that you...
Jeremy Irons is the main villain.
No, but you see...
Profian is, yeah.
Damodor the most.
Yeah.
You know, he's like our leading like conflict.
Oh, and apparently there's a mind flayer in his head.
Yeah, that was horrifying too, by the way.
You know what a mind flayer actually looks like?
Isn't that... What's his button? Stranger Things?
Yeah, kind of. Well, so in Dungeons and Dragons, I don't know why I said it like that. Dungeons and Dragons. A mind flayer is a humanoid beast, like aberrational, like magical beast that looks very similar to like Cthulhu.
Okay.
Like it's got like a squid-like head.
Yeah. Okay.
And it'll.
And he didn't take shit from H.P. Lovecraft, huh? Okay.
He admits that he did that.
I know.
But and like what a mind flayer does is it psionically controls your mind to where like it'll like brainwash you to where you're just a puppet, but mainly to draw you in so then it can suck your brains out through like a tube.
Suck what now?
Kind of like a Starship Troopers.
Oh, the clitoris.
Yeah.
Remember that was like the big people like always. Anyways, we're not getting.
Yeah. Domodor.
Well, like that's even like
he's the imposing figure through the entire.
Yeah, he's the conflict you're always running.
He's
into.
the conflict of the heroes, while Profian is more of the conflict for the queen.
He's Darth Vader. Prothean is
the
Palpatine.
Emperor. Yeah.
Thora
Birch is Yoda. And the kids are Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. And Chewbacca is the dwarf.
You totally derailed.
Sorry. He's the main villain.
But like there's just little things. Okay, like there's little things that I really loved about it. Like actually, I was like, this is like fun, you know. And there's things like his fucking electric blue lipstick. The fuck is going on with that? And then I couldn't stop laughing because I imagined in this universe, you know, I'm looking at it as like this is a world that we're living in.
He's putting that.
He's reapplying in between scenes. He's like, "Come with me!" Like the Emperor guy is like, "Come with me!" And he's like running up the stairs. He's like, "Hold on, what's it?" You know, like I couldn't.
Now I am evil again.
Yeah.
It's real. The best way that I can kind of describe this movie and like its world that it's created is that this is. What's interesting is that Courtney Solomon is like he's a tabletop RPG player. He's played a lot of different ones. This movie feels like kind of like what Roger Ebert said is like they threw away the game and they took the picture of the fucking. Of the book and put it, you know, on the screen. It's like this movie feels like someone's idea of what Dungeons and Dragons is without ever reading anything that is Dungeons and Dragons.
It feels like
or someone who's like been told what a fan. It's like
it's someone that was told what Dungeons and Dragons like was
or fantasy in general.
In one conversation, they're like, "No, make a movie."
Yeah, I can do that. It's like it's like a computer AI generated
a dungeon. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way of putting it.
It's like if aliens were told what fantasy was and they made a fantasy story.
You just described Galaxy Quest. Just for the record.
Oh, that's great.
Well, like I have a couple thoughts about this movie. Number one, I think their like first and only mistake from the out of the gate was they made this a Hollywood movie.
It's actually because and like one of the things it's that for the time it was just an independent movie. And it's regarded as an independent movie for the time that had the highest budget ever given to it, because it was never actually. It wasn't.
Isn't this Touchstone?
No. No.
Well, who was it?
I think Lionsgate.
Mortal Kombat.
Miramax. No. New Line Cinema?
Yeah, what's the has like the reels?
New Line Cinema.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, it's New Line Cinema.
I think they distributed it, but they didn't produce it.
I do think it's...
Yeah, it was distributed by New Line Cinema. Production companies are Sweet Pea Entertainment, Courtney Solomon's, Silver Pictures, and Behavior Worldwide.
Oh.
So this isn't produced by 20th Century Fox. This wasn't produced by Warner Brothers. It wasn't produced by any big Hollywood. It wasn't produced by a big Hollywood product company.
Wow,
this is technically an indie movie.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, then to get that kind of budget, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's why they were saying is like generally a movie of this capacity would have $100 million budget.
Yeah.
For them to get like 30 to 45 million was impressive.
And then they were just a little overzealous with what they wanted to do with it.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, because it's like watching this whole thing feels like belongs on Disney Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
it feels like a network original movie.
Like here, like 10th Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same. Like it's like 10th Kingdom at the end of the day is very similar to this in the kind of cheeky, low budget special effects, but you kind of excuse it because it was a mini series on TNT.
Yeah.
In I think the 2000s.
Yes, that sounds
something
right.
Something like that. And it's like, I love the 10th Kingdom. Is it good? No. But is it fun? Yes. So if you had that's like what's kind of weird about it. That's its downfall. It's like, because you had this, you're paying $10 to go see in a movie theater as opposed to just airing for a week.
Yeah.
You know, that's
which is kind of like
that's
why like TSR was getting ready to be on board with it just being like a mini series.
And that's what it should have been.
Mm-hmm. Like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah. Just do a little minis, and it would have been, and like it wouldn't have gone down in infamy as like a terrible movie. It would just been like a fun 2000 miniseries that was on TNT or Sci-Fi or
it's
whatever.
Interesting is like if you really take out the CGI like transitions and just all of the bad CGI, I don't know, like I feel like inside of this there is kind of like, well, like even though like the movie is generic and bland like storyline wise, I still found it just like, well, there is like this like political power struggle that's happening. These characters that are thrust into heroism for, you know, just wrong place, wrong time type thing.
Well, and then it's also like it starts off as selfish gain.
Yeah.
And then they have to like rise above.
Yeah.
To,
you know,
help the
there
world.
are actual character arcs in this movie for each character.
Well, even Snail.
Yeah.
Like I was reading like it was like him being the cowardly lion was in bad taste or whatever, but it's like, well, but that's his arc. He's the cowardly lion, and then he finally gets into a position where he has to stand up, and then he dies,
and he sacrifices himself for the greater good. And then what's even crazy is like when they're in that elven place, there was a moment with Whalin and McLellan's what's her name? Right? Last name? Yeah, McLellan. But she was Marina and Ridley, and he's kind of being like, you're just a stupid mage and you don't know anything. It's like, it has this weird, like, it's like bad acting and bad script writing. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, wait a second. Like, there was literally a moment where I'm like, this is actually, wait a second. And like,
well,
she saves it. She's saving the scene where she's like, no, like your friend died for the cause that you too believe in, actually, because this empress that you don't understand.
Yeah. You're fighting this empress that wants everything you want.
Yeah.
And like, she saves that scene.
Yeah, and I was like,
she wordly like slaps him in the face, like hear what you're saying and hear what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. We're both like fighting for the same thing, but you're so blinded by your hate for mages, you're not seeing that.
Yeah, and there is a moment I was like with his like agreeance with that, where like just like there's a moment just I see on his face where I was like, whoa, I literally thought I was like, where did this like actually decent acting come out of nowhere from? And this this script, I was like, what the fuck? And then he ruins it with like, well, I guess you're not too stupid for a mage then, are you? And then they kiss. I was like, God damn it, you ruined everything.
Well, like 30 seconds before, Snail dies and and then falls to his knees, and then he gets stabbed. Like you're like, oh wow, this is terrible. And then there's a brief second where you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And then like you said, you're like, fuck
yeah.
You had me going for a minute.
You had me the first half there.
You're good, you. You're good.
Also, it's just like talking about the writing. There's so many weird, just like random inconsistencies of like when they're going into like the encampment, and then the dwarf is getting ready to go help them, and then like the elf's like, no, this is something they must do alone. Like, who the fuck told you that? Why? Why is this thing they have to do alone?
Legolas, what do your elf eyes see?
Yeah, like
she's an elf.
So she just has like she
mystical.
knows there's a prophecy to like these are the chosen heroes. We must let them do it alone. It's like no, it's like there was and then the dwarf's like,
okay. This movie is one big carrot.
Like, what the fuck, dude?
Well,
I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I did. Here, I had a thought, and I was curious what you thought about this. I think I figured out, even with the hodgepodge bullshit that it was, I thought of how you could fix it with the ending.
What do you mean?
So they all like gather around the crystal and they'll put their hands on it.
Oh, like how it was supposed to be a sequel? Oh, Solomon wanted this to be a trilogy.
Terrible. But they all, which
he wanted to make another Star Wars, pretty much.
Which I was confused about, but they all gather around the dragon's eye, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Snail implies he's back alive.
He's magic. There's something with him being. Maybe they have to go on a quest to save his life.
Yeah, and they all turn into.
I'd watch it.
They turn into dust and they flitter around as red comets or whatever. If they had taken that and then pan out and it's people playing Dungeons and Dragons, so it's 4 of them.
I don't like that.
Why?
I just don't like that.
No, but then it makes so it comes out and it's these kids and they're playing the game. So that makes every ludicrous thing that happened make sense because it's all imagination and they're playing a game, so they can do whatever they want.
I feel like that's a cop out of. Like, yeah.
This needs a cop out. That's exactly my point.
That's fair.
Dan died. Oh, it's just a dream. This needed that because then you can kind of excuse. It's like then you have a Jumanji.
Mm-hmm.
Everything ridiculous. Now it makes sense. Like his purple lipstick was a decision by this child. You know what I mean? Like it. I feel like that would have then you could leave it being like, oh, okay.
Do you want to re-edit the end of this to then all of a sudden it's the kids from Stranger Things playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Dude. Real talk. We're going to talk about this later. I love that idea. Really and wholeheartedly excited for that. I'm like a flutter. I really love that idea. That sounds so cool.
Oh, man. Okay.
Is that it?
I mean, I could go on and on about this movie. Just the weird, there's a lot of infuriating things as a fan of playing Dungeons and Dragons where like the mind flayers, that's not a fucking mind flayer. That's weird. The beholders, being the flying eyeball thing, being in a tamed creature for humans to control.
Guards,
that's if you know anything about what beholders are, it's that would not be a fucking thing. And also their design is even worse than the dragons in my opinion.
I think that is that this movie is interesting for us to do because you have
it's I could have a very, very nitpicky point of view on a lot of stuff for this because of how much D&D I've played.
And I can only be nitpicky just based on my fantasy.
Yeah.
Fantasy
and then just a lot a lot of the one-liners are quippy plot, the plot holes throughout this entire movie are just kind of I did the tropes and the cliches that are used for everything. The mage, the female mage, she's kind of just always the damsel in distress. They would have been cool to see her step up and be heroic at a moment.
She saved.
Yeah, there's a little weird moment. It's there would have been a great moment to see her all of a sudden she's a powerful mage. She had some hidden powers. She uses magic very not as much.
But that's I think it also just to go into that too. Every character is forgettable.
Yeah,
there is no one that shines really, and okay, I guess like at a point where for me personally, it's like Snails shines the most and he's the comic relief.
Yeah.
And that should never be the case.
Yeah.
Your comic relief shouldn't
I would say
be
the closest
star.
one is kind of the villains because of just like one Domandir's design.
Yeah.
You know?
He's a fabulous fump.
Yeah.
You know,
And then Jeremy Irons just over the top performance in general.
But even that was annoying to me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't find it interesting. Like, he was an interesting villain because one scene he's, are you going to allow the Empress to blah, 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 blah. And the next scene he's, you know.
It's like even, it's like,
I couldn't get over the fact I had a hard time understanding what he was saying.
That's fair. And then just like, just how the dwarf becomes part of their, like.
He goes, okay.
Party.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden they just like, he's there just suddenly at like in the rummage of whatever stuff, and then his helmet gets knocked off, and then they're just following, and then he's just with them.
Yeah. Well, they offer to pay him.
Well, later after like he's already joined them at the tavern and stuff, and then he's like, "Who's gonna pay me?" It's like, why have you been following them then?
Yeah, like again, like, you know, I was talking about the putting on the lipstick.
Yeah.
Like, in behind the scenes, they're like, is he still behind us?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he's still behind us. What is he doing? I don't know. Just don't.
He's got a big axe. Don't piss him off.
Just ignore him. Maybe he'll go away.
Why is he sitting down at the table with us? He's eating all of the chicken.
He's eating all my chicken. Just don't say anything. Yeah, no, that actually I didn't think about that. It's just kind of okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I could go on and on about this movie, but we should probably let's start wrapping it up. I'm really kidding. What's your carrot?
2.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. A 2.
Like, objectively, as that's the job we've made for ourselves is to give an honest review. And it's like, yeah, no, this movie's terrible. Did I really like it?
It's almost a 1.
It really is. But the thing is, I'm giving a little like leeway because I really enjoyed it, and I do think this has a place for your very young child.
There is a coherent story that might have its own plot holes, but you can follow this idea of good versus evil on a magical journey to obtain the artifacts that need to be done.
Yes.
There is the awful climax of the Dragon War at the end, which we didn't even talk really anything about, which is probably one of the worst parts of the entire movie.
It literally crashes and burns the movie.
Yeah.
And he got like even the
which I completely forgot that happened. There was like literally when I was watching this, like I have a lot of memories of watching this when I was in high school, but they all end after Snails dies.
Well, because then it's the classic trope too. He gets caught monologuing.
Yeah.
It's like the Jeremy Irons character could have killed all of them.
Yeah.
Real easily, but he got caught monologuing, and then I was sitting there, and I was like, "Oh no! Do you think the dragon is going to eat him?"
Yeah, right.
And then it comes up and oh man, what a crazy plot to the dragon!
Oh no! I didn't see that coming at all.
Oh man, the dragon ate him. Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
I was like, this is so fucking stupid.
But like, since it does have like a coherent story within all of that, and
coherent is very forgiving, but yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like the idea of like good versus evil, hero wins at the end, and then the whole thing of them like fleeting away and like the stardust and whatnot is kind of lending a little bit to like anybody who has played D&D is that the journey does never end. Like there could be another campaign, another story arc for your characters to go through. You know, it's like this might be the end of like one story, but that's just the beginning for another one.
Yeah, and I do really think that if you look at it in the lens that this was just came out at the wrong time.
Yeah.
That is a way to look at it because, like, honestly, like 80s fantasy isn't that much better.
No.
It really isn't. It's
just got less CGI.
Yeah, it's just like you forgive it more. So if you look at it that way, because like I said, like I really feel like me being that kid, like if at 8 years old you were to sit me down and watch this, I would have dug it.
Yeah,
I would have been like, it's cool.
Exactly. Like, it's like, and like, but now it's like really looking at it and like, it just, even just like the production designs and everything is so over the top. It's just like, it feels like a dream more than like something that a fantasy world, like Lord of the Rings, feels grounded in reality compared to this.
That's a great way. Like Lord of the Rings feels like it's a parallel universe somewhere that could exist. This feels just like a simulation made by an AI, like you were saying. And that's actually a really good way to put it. Because even Willow feels like this happened at some point somewhere.
Yeah.
This just feels like its own little bubble simulation, and
it's like so over the top that it starts to feel science fiction-y.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like in even like the scepters, look like cheap plastic. Yeah, it just doesn't. And that's what's weird too, because there's certain costumes and stuff that look, some of the costumes look good. You're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, Dumbledore's costume actually I think is pretty dope.
I mean, it looked fine. Even Jeremy Irons' robes and stuff looked, like good. And then he picks up a scepter, and you're like, you get that from Disneyland? Like, what's going on here?
Did you get that from Spirit Halloween store?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. You're like, cool.
I feel like we're kind of running around in circles and I kind of saying the same thing again.
Yeah, I just.
Oh, did you have never?
I want to go home. I'm kidding. Yeah, so I give it a 2.
Yeah. Same with me. 2 out of 5. If you have the chance to watch it for free, do it.
Yeah. Don't spend money on it like we
I
did.
bought it.
I did too. I bought it after renting it. Because I was like, dude, I would totally
watch this again.
I would totally get like stoned and watch it again.
I kind of want. Oh yeah, this is also there's 2 direct to DVD sequels to this. They're not direct sequels, but there's Dungeons and Dragons 2 and Dungeons and Dragons 3.
And then we got the new one.
And they're not, but they have totally separate like worlds and storylines and stuff.
I don't know if I
and now we got the 4th coming out. That came out today when this is getting released.
But yeah, I bought it. I think we both bought it.
It's funny. All right, guys. Next week we're doing Super Mario Brothers from 1993.
Just knock him out of the park.
Hell yeah, man! I love watching bad movies and seeing if we can find if there's anything good in it.
I'm just like really surprised that we both enjoyed this one. As we did. But yeah, join us next week for the
1993 Super Mario Brothers.
Okay. Yeah, join us for that because
which also Super Mario Brothers movie is coming out in the following and next week from this, and
we'll figure out what to do after that.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, 2 out of 5 carrots. Please like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
Give us reviews, stars,
we would love some
comments,
reviews,
all that
comments.
stuff.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you as always. And this is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is
Tommy and Jacob's Mixtape.
Bye. I
don't know why I froze. I'm going to cut all this out.
I'm like.